Lena had always been the quiet one in the family. She had spent years observing her younger sister, Rachel, who always seemed to have it all: charm, confidence, and the ability to charm anyone in her path. But behind Rachel's perfect smile, Lena could sense the bitterness that had been brewing for years. It was only a matter of time before that bitterness would surface. Their mother, Diane, had never made it easy for Lena to feel accepted, always comparing her to Rachel, telling her that she needed to be more like her younger sister, more outgoing, more confident. But Lena was different. She was reserved, thoughtful, and always put others before herself, and yet it never seemed to be enough. One day the family gathered at their childhood home for what seemed like an ordinary dinner. But the atmosphere was thick with tension, even before the first word was spoken. Lena arrived early as usual to help their mother with the preparations. She could hear her mother in the kitchen, humming softly to herself as she worked to get everything ready. It was a stark contrast to the anxiety bubbling inside Lena. Something was off. She could feel it in the air. When Rachel arrived, she was her usual energetic self, greeting everyone with a wide smile. But there was something different in her eyes today. Something dark. Something that sent a chill down Lena's spine. Diane immediately pulled Rachel aside, whispering something Lena couldn't make out, but it was enough to know that it was important. The way Rachel nodded solemnly only made Lena more uneasy. Lena tried to ignore it. She knew that whatever it wasn't going to affect her. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change, and not for the better. The dinner went on in the usual fashion, with laughter filling the room, but it was a forced laughter. The conversations were shallow, everyone pretending everything was fine, but Lena could see through the facade. The atmosphere was thick with an unspoken tension that she knew had to come to light eventually. She had learned long ago that family secrets were never kept for long. After dinner, everyone gathered in the living room to talk, as they always did. Diane sat in her favorite armchair, a glass of wine in hand, while Rachel sat beside her. Lena took a seat on the opposite side of the room, trying to blend into the background, her mind racing with questions. What was Rachel hiding? What was their mother so anxious about? Finally, Diane spoke, her voice low and serious. "Lena, we need to talk." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap, the tension growing even more palpable. "We've been keeping something from you, and it's time you knew." Lena's heart skipped a beat. What could they possibly be keeping from her? Was it about their father, who had passed away 5 years ago? She had always suspected that there was more to his death than what had been told to her. But no, it couldn't be that. Or could it? Rachel's eyes met hers, filled with an emotion Lena couldn't quite place. Was it guilt? Shame? Or something darker? "Lena," Rachel began, her voice trembling. "We didn't want to hurt you, but the time has come. There's something you need to know about the inheritance." The words hit Lena like a blow to the chest. Inheritance? Her father had left everything to Diane and them equally, hadn't he? That was what she'd been told. That's what Diane had promised when he passed away. But now Rachel was saying something entirely different. The world around her began to spin, and she had to brace herself to stay grounded. "What are you talking about?" Lena demanded, her voice sharp with confusion and rising anger. Diane sighed heavily, placing her glass down on the table. "Lena, your father left everything to Rachel and me. We made the decision years ago to protect you from it. We didn't want you to worry about money." Lena felt her pulse quicken. "What? That's impossible. That's not what he said. He would have told me." She stood up, pacing around the room, trying to make sense of it all. "Why didn't I know about this? Why didn't you tell me?" Rachel stood up as well, her face hardening. "Because you never needed to know. You've always had your head in the clouds, focusing on your career and being the perfect little daughter. You never had to worry about anything, Lena. We were the ones who took care of everything." Lena's world felt like it was crashing down around her. Her breath quickened, and her hands began to tremble. "You," she gasped, her throat tightening. "You kept this from me all these years?" Diane stood up, her face pale but determined. Lena, we did what we thought was best. We never wanted to cause you pain. But the truth is, your father's will was changed shortly before he died. He knew he didn't have much time left, and he wanted us to be prepared. Lena shook her head in disbelief. This doesn't make sense. I don't believe you. But the look on Rachel's face was enough to convince her that this wasn't a lie. The family she thought she knew, the people she had loved and trusted, had been keeping secrets from her. Deep, painful secrets. And now, it was all coming to light, and Lena had no idea how to handle it. We tried to protect you, Lena, Rachel said, her voice growing quieter. But maybe it was wrong. Maybe you deserve to know the truth. For a moment, there was silence in the room, the weight of Rachel's words hanging heavy in the air. Lena's mind was racing, her thoughts colliding. The inheritance wasn't just about money. It was about something deeper, something much more complicated. And now, Lena had to decide what to do with the truth. Could she ever trust Rachel and Diane again? Could she forgive them for this betrayal? She looked at both of them, her heart heavy with betrayal. I don't know if I can forgive you for this. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. Rachel stepped closer, her expression softening. Lena, we're family. We've made mistakes, but we're still your family. And maybe we can fix this. But Lena wasn't sure she believed her. How could she? Her entire life had been built on lies, and now everything felt like it was falling apart. She turned to leave, the weight of everything too much to bear. I need time to think, she said, her voice barely a whisper as she walked out of the room. The following days were a blur of confusion and anger. Lena stayed in her apartment, refusing to answer Rachel's or Diane's calls. She needed to be alone to think, to process everything she had just learned. But as the days passed, the anger began to fade into something else, something darker, something more devastating. The more Lena thought about it, the more she realized that her entire life had been based on a false narrative. She had been living in a world where everything seemed perfect on the surface, but underneath it all, there were cracks that no one had bothered to address. And now, those cracks were wider than ever. But in the midst of all the confusion, there was one thing that stood out. The inheritance wasn't the real issue. The real issue was the betrayal. The way her family had kept her in the dark. The way they had lied to her for years. That was the thing that hurt the most. And so, Lena made a decision. She would no longer allow herself to be part of a family that couldn't be honest with her. She would walk away, for good this time. She wasn't sure what her future held, but she knew one thing for certain. She needed to rebuild herself, to start fresh, without the weight of her family's secrets weighing her down. Lena took a deep breath, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of peace. It wasn't going to be easy, but she was ready to move forward. And no matter what happened next, she would be the one